I'm Joanne, the city columnist with the Ottawa Citizen, and I'm here with my City Hall colleague, David Reevely. And I wanted to ask you, David, about the announcement made in Orleans today about a big new development and maybe some new employment opportunities there.
It is a big deal if you live in Orleans, or at least it's potentially a big deal. It was announced at a breakfast for the Orleans Chamber of Commerce this morning. A big developer, works mostly in Gatineau, called Brigil, is going to actually get to work on a piece of land that they've owned just north of Highway 174, close to Petrie Island. They've owned it for a number of years. And what they're promising is that they're going to build office space, 370,000 square feet, which is a fair bit, medium-sized office building. A conference hall, 64,000 square feet, so you can have small trade shows, you can have conferences. Apparently it's going to be the biggest venue for wedding receptions in Orleans, because if you wanted to have a big one, you've had to go downtown. And there's going to be a retail component as well. And the idea is that this is going to address the problem that Orleans has always had, as far as anybody can remember, which is there's an enormous number of relatively low-wage jobs, particularly retail jobs, but there's almost no high-tech, there are almost no quote-unquote good jobs for people with university degrees who want to make a lot of money and support a family.
Well, this is interesting because there's I always am talking to a statistician down in Orleans who shows us actually that Orleans doesn't have any actual lower employment numbers than lots of other of the suburbs. I mean, Canada is a little different because of the high-tech companies there, but it's no worse off than, say, Barrhaven or South Nepean. But going back to this announcement, I am wondering if there are any are there any tenants lined up for this? We're hearing now that there's a big glut of office space downtown. Who's going to move into this building in Orleans?
Well, this is the thing that's missing. Typically when you have an announcement like this, you have a politician who gets together with the actual employer who's going to be moving in, and they announce their big development proposal, and it's for a spectacular campus with a high-tech tenant or group of high-tech tenants, and they're all going to be in on it, and it's all going to be great, and you know who it's going to be. But the premise here is that the developer will build the buildings and then people will come and occupy them. And this is actually what the councillor for the area, Bob Monette, is saying about it. The premise is if you build it, they will come.
Well, that is a risky premise, but I guess if the developer wants to do that, who's to stop them? It'll be interesting to see how that happens. I'm always a little skeptical about these plans because I'm not sure how much the city should be getting involved. You wrote about it recently. I've written in the past that there's this new program to give people, building new office space, a property tax incentive. It'll be interesting to see if this company takes advantage of that, if that's what it's about. I think, though, the city should really be focusing more on transit, for example, and other amenities. I know there's always a big talk about whether we should skip over building the transitway out to Orleans and go straight to LRT. That may be coming up, I guess, in future discussions at...
Within a couple of weeks, actually. There's supposed to be an update to the Transportation Master Plan. One of the questions is whether Orleans should get a light rail line before it gets its own dedicated busway.
All right, so what's happening in Orleans? Thanks very much. We're here with David Reevely and Joanne from the Ottawa Citizen.